But if you don't know history and truth, you can't tell. You will go by usually emotions, which are usually always wrong. If you go by your intuit, you may be right. But if you go by emotions, you're usually wrong. You know. Now, so Yeshua ben Yosef is the name of the one that people call the Son, the Christ. Christ is ancient Sanskrit from Kisna, which means the Son, S-U-N, as written in the book of Malachi, 3rd chapter, S-U-N. Most people don't know that because they don't want you to understand the procession of the what? The deacons and the disciples around the wheel of Ezekiel, or the zodiac wheel, which is the foundation of civilization itself, which that clock is based on. You understand? Your 4 seasons. Easter, Passover, Astarte, Ishtar is the same thing as when the sun comes out of the southern hemisphere, crosses the celestial equator of the axis of the earth, with Earth's axis of the halfway point that you call the celestial equator, and comes into the northern hemisphere and rams the earth and impregnates her, and life comes anew. That's the star is now in the east, for Eastern Star. So now you see the crescent in the eastern sky, and then you see Venus not too far off, looking like she wants to attach, just like a seed does to a uterus. And that's where the symbol of the crescent and the star comes from. It's the same principle that the 3 wise men followed when they followed the polar star to find the birthplace of the Nazarene. And the manger is actually a sign. That's why in the book it says, I leave these signs for you, the sun, the moon, the stars. That's your ancient culture. And when you turned away from it and started idol god worship, you fell. You see what happened? Let's look at this. When the Nazarene was on the scene, as an example, when they talk about, when the Romans boast about how they tortured and murdered them, right? And boast about those of us who betrayed our own, right? Because he came amongst us, told us, you know, to go back to those principles of our ancient fathers, mothers, because we were complaining because we was under the iron hand oppression of the Europeans, which are called collectively Romans. So he came, told us, you know, hey, the law ain't new. Don't you remember the laws of Moses? I didn't come to change any laws. Why don't you go back to the laws of the ancient fathers? And they accused him of doing some new stuff, trying to be the king and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Sold them out to the Romans. Now all of them got Roman names. Their babies got Roman names. And the Europeans got bonds on them through birth certificates, and they can't figure it out because it's so many generations later, and they forgot their history. I.e., because now they call them Negroes, blacks, or whatever they call themselves this week. And then 2 minutes later, it might be somebody else. And the rest of the civilized world makes progress all around them, and they can't figure it out. But they're saved, and their babies are dying in the street, but they're saved. But their babies is dying in the street, but they're saved. Families all broke up, but they're saved. Supreme hypocrisy, isn't it? Now, while we play those games, nature doesn't feel sorry for us.
It's just plain stupid.
Because it doesn't recognize personal station. It's consequence, isn't it? Cause and effect, isn't it? If we're so righteous as a people, why do we catch so much hell? We pray more than everybody else. We give up more coins, paying off these guys that keep on promising but never fulfill them than anybody else. Families is, think of a good word, really messed up. And that's taking it mildly. Though we hypocritically we say, well, mine's all right. You know. But the real deal is, we look at our baby and her bright eyes, and she's happy now because she's in your arms. And you love her, just like she's reaching for daddy when Sabir was holding her in, you know, secure in his arms. It's going to be her best years. Because soon as she becomes aware of her surroundings, and they start instituting them Christian black codes on her, and she's going to start thinking she's a nigger if you don't clean it up. And she will be held to those codes too, if you don't fix it now, which you're making the effort to do. But then we must understand how you got to where you are. Now, when the Moors ruled in Europe, they took civilization to Europe. Yes, you already understand the Europeans were quite savage. And of course we took them off all fours, taught them civilization. But we must understand the truth. We made them in the all four. They're not an aberration or an evolution in nature. Therefore, they have very high maintenance issues. Because the very Son of God that gives life to everything in this solar system seeks to kill them. Because their form or their body is not harmonious with the evolutionary processes of the earth, wind, fire, and air in the quantities and in the molecular amounts and changes in this universe. Therefore, they suffer from melanoma on a massive scale and leprosy on a massive scale because they have no or very little melanin in their skin, which is a spacesuit. And so the concept with most Asiatics here is that we were always here, and so they don't recognize that their melanin is a spacesuit. Do you see? However, the Albion or the Albrita, we call them Albo Hybrida. The Albo Hybrida is not original on the planet, not of his own fault or making, so therefore don't charge him with being out of order. He's a hybrid, a heterogeneous hybrid, from a mixture or the crossing of the bloods of the troglodyte nigger and the human. And so the nigger and the human makes up the blended bouquet of the human family today that you call, without qualifications and without knowledge, races. Do you understand? The dynamics of his survival rate, particularly in the North Gate, they deal with losses from 75,000 to 80,000 a year alone from melanoma. So you must understand they have issues not of their own making, but by circumstance of their existence in that particular form. The issue with both the politics and the genetics, or the high maintenance for the Albion breed, is due to the fact that the sun operates in the universe or in the solar system no different than the white corpuscle operates in your body. It is absolutely the same. The atomic principle operations and structures are identical, whether you deal with the microcosm or the macrocosm. In other words, atom big and atom small are the same. So a cell, a living cell, is no different in its structure and nature of the very universe. And the nucleus operates just like a sun. Protons, neutrons, electrons act just like planets. And they never touch the Son of God. Yet the Son of God gives life to it all. And so Atom, A-T-O-M, is the first man. And the evolution of those energies between the positive and negative forces, just like this electric, when you positive and negative force bring light. So the interchanges between electrons, the neutrons, protons, generate life. Positive and negative force. Masculine, feminine principle, yin and yang. Cosmic rhythm. That's science. And the personalities that are given to the forces in nature in religious order is simply forces in nature given personalities so children can understand them or relate to them, but it's never been Adam and Eve in the concept that you have taken it.